Hello, I'm here today to tell you about the most frightening place that I have ever traveled. In 2009, I was part of a group of urban explorers who broke into an abandoned asylum. It was a large complex which had been closed down many years earlier due to the controversial lobotomy experiments performed there. I have since learned that it was known locally as Patient Zero's lair, though nobody seemed to know who Patient Zero actually was. We weren't the first to explore this place because we found a fair amount of graffiti left by others on the crumbling walls inside. But we were told that no one had set foot in the building for at least 6 years. It was a freezing cold night, and we didn't have much time before sunrise. So we crept through the shattered window of what had once been the main reception and made our way deeper into the asylum. The place was completely derelict, filled with overturned furniture, blood-stained surgical tools, and the lingering smell of decay. After about 20 minutes, someone let out a scream after seeing a rat scurry across the floor. Then another person swore and stamped on the floor after sitting on a glass bottle that had been hidden under some debris. It took us a while to find anything of interest, but eventually we came across a hidden room behind one of the reception desks. Inside was a diary and some other items that had clearly belonged to one of the patients. As we turned the brittle pages, we found drawings of grotesque figures with sharp teeth and claws, along with disturbing writings that seemed to detail satanic rituals. One drawing in particular stood out, which appeared to be a map of the asylum, with certain rooms and corridors highlighted in red. It also seemed to show the layout of the entire town, including the local church, police station, and hospital. We don't know how long this patient had been here, or why they drew such things, but it made us wonder if they had special knowledge of things that were not of this world. The most terrifying part was that we could hear the faint sound of inhuman moans and whispers coming from the very walls themselves. It sounded like hundreds of voices, all overlapping and vying for attention. And the longer we stayed in that room reading the diary, the louder it all became. Suddenly, lights began flickering violently above our heads, and a door slammed shut somewhere in the distance. We were getting scared now, and decided to leave the asylum. But as we tried to exit through the front entrance, we found that it was blocked by a large fallen beam. We managed to pry it loose and tumbled out of the building just as the sun began to rise. Shaking but unharmed, we piled into the car and drove off as fast as we could. Later that day, when looking through the footage, we saw that a wheelchair had rolled down a long, dark corridor and come to a stop at the end of the hallway. There were also several apparitions that were caught in the reflections of windows and doorways. They were too quick to make out any details, but they were definitely there. Then we remembered the layout of the asylum and realized that we had entered through the very same door that the wheelchair had come from. But how could that be? It had been bolted shut on the other side, and no one had been in that room when we explored it. Another piece of the puzzle was that one of the explorers had mentioned feeling watched the entire time, even though there was no one else inside. When we looked at the footage, we saw that several objects had been thrown at the camera, and one of the explorers had dropped their flashlight. Then we heard what sounded like screams in the background, but it was too muffled to tell for sure. What we didn't realize until later was that we had stumbled upon what was known as the Corridor of Screams. According to legend, anyone who enters this asylum will hear the screams of the damned, but those who venture into the center of the building will experience a drop in temperature so severe that it can be felt on the camera lens. And that's exactly what we found. When we watched back the footage from the center of that corridor, we saw that the temperature gauge on the camera had dropped almost 20 degrees in just a few seconds. But then comes the worst part. When we examined the video, we saw a dark, hunched-over figure that appeared to be running down the corridor towards us. Then suddenly, the camera was knocked to the ground and the footage became upside down. But for just a split second, we could see something dark and demonic moving incredibly fast past the camera lens. We never went back, and I don't think any of us want to go back. One of the explorers later said that he felt something brush against his leg, and that he could still feel something watching him, even after he left the asylum. He also showed us the scratches that appeared on his arm during the events. I can't say for sure if these were real or imagined, but I myself came away from that experience with a newfound respect and fear of abandoned places. If you enjoyed this video, please click like and subscribe. Thank you.